Oops, I forgot to press the button. All right. You know what it is? You know who it is? We're back. Another episode of the BG Perform podcast. We got Jake back. We got a couple things we're going to talk about here. We got this Loma versus Lopez fight, which was a little bit crazy, if you ask both of us. I know you weren't 100% with the score. I wasn't 100% with the decision, but and then we got Khabib Gaethjie this weekend, so we're going to go over that a little bit, get some expert boxing opinion, and kind of go from there. So first off, start with this Lomachenko Lopez fight. Um, it was not what you expect from Lomachenko, right? Not at all. I've watched, I started watching him a while ago when you told me about him, which, he's always been a dominant fighter no matter what. Like he's always been kind of, and I don't know what I missed, or I don't know if it was recent, but I didn't even know he lost. Like I never know he had a loss. Was that recent or was that?
There was like man, I want to say he lost his third fight.
Okay.
And
So
it was a questionable decision.
yeah,
But he lost.
in my opinion, boxing's got to clean it up. They are making mistake after mistake, and like they always have bad decisions, and it sucks because boxing's such a good sport, but they have it never fails that like something happens every single fight. Like literally every single fight, that something happens, whether it's decision, whether it's points, whether it's uh, you know, just the setup of the fight.
Make no mistake, Lopez won that fight.
Yeah.
But the scorecards, I heard Teddy Atlas said that Julie Letterman should be arrested, and I agree.
I think a lot of these boxing judges should be arrested. I don't know what they see. I don't know what they watch, and it's been a lot. And like, they really need to figure out something with the scorecards because like the judges, and in terms of like judging a fight, like maybe get rid of like the point system. I don't know. Like gets rid of the point.
This
system.
is what you need to do. All right. Every single person that's going to judge a fight should have fight experience.
That's true. That is true.
All right. Or they need to be jumped in like the Bloods or something. You know what I mean? Something, because you can't go in there and score these fights and just disrespect a guy that is just like put his life on the line for 12 rounds.
Yeah.
By giving him one round out of 12 when he clearly won at the very least 4. Yeah, so it's a blatant disrespect. It's like, so if you've never fought before, I don't think you should be allowed to judge a fight.
You really should. And like, I don't know who does UFC judging, but I haven't really seen any like egregious mistakes in judging in terms of like, there's been a couple obviously, and I think it always happens, but like there's
been bad ones. But the difference in the UFC is that if there is a bad one, there's one boss that says, all right, you're done, or you're suspended.
And Dana always calls people out. Like Dana's always, when something happens in the UFC, there's always like, he's like, oh, this guy sucks, like he's never going to judge another fight again. Or like in terms of like the actual judge in there, like the ref, they're always pretty rough on them. But yeah, I mean, I've seen multiple fights in the past 5 years that have just been terrible decisions, terrible points, terrible, just like, yeah. But anyways, what was your thoughts on the fight in general, and then kind of like what happened? Because obviously, like I said, I think you expect a little bit more out of Lomachenko, and he kind of like didn't do a lot in the first 8 rounds, and then like towards the end of the fight, I thought he was picking it up, but it obviously wasn't enough, and he was very like hesitant early on, and I feel like, and I don't know what it is, and I don't know if it's just like once you get to like a certain level of boxing, like they're just afraid to throw like punches or get into that, into that like just brawl. I don't know, and like it could just be seeing, but
here's what I think happened. So first of all, I think both camps had brilliant fight plans. So say first about Lopez, not one expert, not one boxing pundit that you heard called the fight that way. No one said, hey man, Lopez is going to come out there and be super patient and use his IQ, and he's going to be the one downloading information.
Well, he was what, 330, like 330 underdog, I think, or something like that. Or was it
like before? It's like 420.
Yeah, it was like a huge underdog.
Well, yeah, Loma was minus 420. Yeah, he was like plus 330, something like that. But no one called that. Okay, I was very, very surprised. And on my channel, on my YouTube channel, I did the preview and fight breakdown and I had it an 11th round TKO for Loma,
Mhm.
which I mean I watched the fight again for the second time last night, and that 11th round, Loma was really knocking him around the ring. I thought I was going to be
Yeah,
right
I
on.
thought, and
But
I thought,
Lopez came out in that 12th round because he looked dead tired in the 10th and 11th, which I thought was going to happen. But man, he showed a ton of heart, man, a ton of heart in the 12th round to come out and do what he did. But so the game plans, I think the game plans from both camps were the right game plans. I just think Loma took about 2 rounds too long to turn it on.
by the way, if you
I
want to
think,
check out the preview, it's on Immortal Boxing, right? On YouTube.
yeah, on YouTube.
Yeah,
Yep.
Immortal Boxing. I'll put the link in the
Yeah.
below. But anyways, keep going.
Um, so Loma's game plan come in there, work around the dude, move in and out for the first part of the fight, and try to get Lopez to make a mistake and rely on his athleticism and try to throw something big, and then him start countering. That was their plan. I think that was a good plan. I just think that he should have turned it on 2 rounds earlier.
Yeah.
But according to Julie Letterman, it wouldn't matter. But anyway, um,
Literally.
yeah, it wouldn't have mattered. But so I think their game plans were on point. Um, yeah, I think so much credit needs to go to Lopez for being the age that he is, the lack of experience that he has, and being as patient as he was. Like, you know how hard it is to be patient like that when you're all amped up, you're fighting for all these belts, you're 23 years old, you know you knock everybody out,
Yeah.
right? And to be that patient and sit behind your jab and just counterpunch for the first half of the fight, it's a level of he showed the experience of like a very seasoned veteran.
Mhm.
And it was very surprising, but it's good. It's I told someone earlier today that what Lopez got out of those 12 rounds was like the equivalent of 5 years fighting in the ring.
Yeah.
He jumped up so many levels during this fight. So yeah, game plan were good. And so let's just talk about what actually took place in the ring. So during those first 6 rounds, when Loma was just trying to bait Lopez into doing something, all Lopez was doing was pot shotting here and there.
Yeah.
Here's a jab, here's a counter uppercut, here's a body shot here and there. Nothing significant, but his activity is what won him those rounds.
Yeah.
Rounds 8 to 11, not even close. Loma punched this dude all over the ring. There was nothing he could do.
That's what I was watching. I was watching him. His head was going. Like Loma was just like bobbing and weaving, just like hitting him and like tapping him.
He had him on. He was backpedaling. Lopez was on his bicycle, like just moving back because it was just too much.
Yeah.
And at that point, it was like it seemed like two things. Lopez was a little tired by the time that Loma really turned it on, and he wasn't ready for that to come so quickly.
Yeah.
Because all of his counter punching and his patience went out the window. Like Loma figured out how to get in there quick enough to land 3, 4, 5 punches at a time and then get out, with Lopez not landing anything or just landing 1 or 2, right? So you went through those 4 rounds, 8 through 11. Clearly, Loma doing a lot more work than Lopez actually did those first 6, 7 rounds. And then it came to the 12th round, and Lopez was just all heart, all heart, man. Like he, you heard on the telecast, which was trash, by the way. Timothy Bradley is garbage at commentating. I don't know how many times you heard this dude say the same thing over and over again. And then, like we all know, he was rooting for Lopez. Lopez lands a counter uppercut to Loma's chest, and they showed it on the replay. It showed it hit him in the chest, and this is Timothy Bradley. Like, look at that perfectly placed uppercut. It's like, bro, calm down.
I never liked Timothy Bradley. He was
but damn, what was I saying? So they were talking about on the telecast going in that into the 12th round that Lopez Sr. was like, hey man, we're winning the fight. Don't do anything crazy. Just go out there and box. And Tio didn't do that. He went out there and put it all out there, threw some heavy shots, looked like he was trying to get him out there. It was a great 12th round. Lopez, I think, got the better of him. And ultimately, my scorecard looked exactly like Andre Ward's.
Mhm.
I had the exact same one. I had a draw 6-6.
I thought, and honestly, I thought after I watched the last 3 rounds, it was like, 9, 10, 11. I guess, like you said, the last four, I was like, they're going to call this a draw. I was like, I have a bad feeling. Like, they're going to call this a draw. And then obviously keep going. But
Well,
like,
the thing was that with Lopez winning the 12th, so I agree with a lot of guys like Max Kellerman, Teddy Atlas, Bud Crawford. Some of these guys you heard say that like it was either a close win for Lopez or a draw.
yeah,
Like that was clear. Like Loma didn't do enough to win the fight.
yeah,
So like even though I scored it a draw because the close rounds like 2 and 7 I gave to Loma. Not by much. Like those are 2 rounds where it's like okay, you could give those to Lopez. Um, so it's like it's either draw or it's Lopez, 7-5,
mhm,
or at the most you could give Lopez was 8-4,
mhm,
right? Because Loma definitely won 8-11. I think anyone with functioning eyeballs knows that Loma won 8-11.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so I personally had it a draw, but I 7-5, 8-4. I could definitely I could see it. So the decision was right, man. That kid, he came out and did something that no one, literally none of the experts expected him to do, which was show that amount of patience in a big time fight like that against a pound for pound #1 fighter in the world,
yeah,
and knowing that you're bigger, stronger, faster, and sit behind your jab like that and just wait for your guy to make the mistake first. Like I thought that was brilliant, man.
yeah. I
And I,
mean,
I think it's even more brilliant that his father came out and told everyone they were just going to bully him. Because I think for a while like, people were starting to believe that, like calling for the knockout. Because yeah, he's gonna force his physicality on him, right? He's gonna just gonna knock him out. And it turns out that Lopez Senior is smart enough to know, like, that's not gonna work.
yeah.
You know what I mean? We're gonna. This
Well, it
is
looked
our.
like that might have been what Lomachenko was waiting for early on because it seemed like
That's exactly what he was waiting for.
he was hesitant.
You could see it.
Yeah,
He was in and out, slapping his jab down, putting his hands like he was just fainting his hands here and there,
yeah,
trying to get him to throw something big. You could see he was touching his hands out there and then moving back, waiting for that big shot to come so he can come back in and land something. It didn't come.
yeah. And
He's
like
too
the
patient.
whole, and it's tough as a fighter of like Loma's caliber too, because like you know, he's got everything that you need, but sometimes you have to be patient too. And like they were both being a little patient, and then he was, if you're expecting that kind of like approach, you're gonna have to sit back and wait. You're gonna have to wait for your shot and wait for your chance. And then sometimes it gets too late, and that's what happens. You've seen a ton of fighters do that. And if you're not, and this is what bugs me sometimes, is like if you're not Floyd, and Floyd's game is built around not getting hit. So like he's he's someone who can, not do a lot and get the win. Whereas like everybody else is kind of like you need to like put stuff in there. And like you've seen it with dudes like, you know, Loma that night. I've seen it with like Adrian Broner before. I've seen it with like, people who think it's in the back of their head that they already won because they tell themselves they've won and then they
Dude,
don't do anything.
Oscar De La Hoya versus Felix Trinidad is one that comes immediately to mind. Oscar, probably first 5-6 rounds, gave this dude a boxing lesson, and
Mhm.
then coasted the second half of the fight because he thought he had it bagged. You know what I mean? It was really like the first 8-9 rounds. He really, really, he had him, and he thought he won the fight. Basically, got on his bicycle for 4 rounds and ended up losing a decision.
Yeah. And
I
like
mean,
that stuff.
that's what happens, right? It's a fight. You gotta fight
Yeah.
until the fight is over. You
And like and then
can't
you
think.
because especially now when it's been, like I said, there's been probably more than you can name over the past 5 years where you just can't leave it up to the judges. Like you can't, because like when you do, it doesn't turn out in your favor. It doesn't turn out in anyone's favor because they're obviously, I don't know. I really don't know what they're looking at
You
sometimes.
never know what a judge is looking for. Some judges, again, they're looking for action. Some judges are looking for, significant punches landed. Some are looking to see who backs up more. So, you know what I mean? You never know.
Yeah.
It's so hard to, you know what to expect at the end of a fight when the scores come up. You don't know what they're looking. And they're human beings. They
Yeah.
could be looking for different things on different night out of different fighters. So
Yeah.
it's like, who knows? You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah. What were some of the like best things you saw out of each fighter? You know, like in general, I know you're talking about Lopez's patience and kind of like Lomachenko's last 8 through 11 round, but what were kind of like the highlights of the fight that you thought like both of them did really well?
Um, I Lopez's patience and his jab, um, was like his highlight. Like I think that just Lopez's head is a highlight because I think like what he showed in that fight is gonna that's what's gonna make him a champion in divisions going up for a long time. Um, like doing what he did, I think at 135, he's above Tank and obviously like Devin Haney, Shakur, and Ryan Garcia, the younger guys, obviously ahead of them. But I think what he did shows that he's well above all those guys. So that for him. Um, Honestly, I think Loma's ability to take some of those heavy shots
Hmm.
in the 12th round, like at the end of all that, because we've seen Tio like put people to sleep
Hmm.
cold. And while there wasn't a lot of them, he did take a handful of really heavy shots right on the chin, right on the ear, and he stood. So that was kind of surprising.
Yeah.
I said it in my preview video too, talking about Linares knocking Lomachenko down, and that it wasn't one of those knockdowns that was like powerful
Hmm.
and shook him. It was just perfectly timed, and it was like a flash knockdown.
Yeah.
So it was hard to tell, like, oh, was it his chin not there, or was it just because it was perfectly timed? So to me, now this sort of reinforces the idea that I had that that punch that Linares hit him with was perfectly timed, and Loma has showed in the Lopez fight that he does have a really great chin.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I also think I want to say one thing too.
Yeah.
I think it's garbage that so many people now are like just dumping all over Loma like he's trash now.
I mean,
Like he's still like
that's
all
the
the skill
casual
that
fan.
he's shown as a boxer, it just goes out the window. Like, oh no, none of that exists.
Yeah.
Like Devin Haney came out and tweeted like, oh, I've been saying he's garbage. Like, come on, bro. I know you're trying to get a fight now. You're trying
Yeah.
to get. I get it, but and then so many guys on YouTube channels that claim to be boxing channels talking about like he didn't do anything for 12 rounds or 12 whole rounds. Um, it's just not giving him credit at all. And I get like I heard Javante Davis say this too, right after the fight. He said that boxing has more trolls than any other sport.
Yeah. Well, it's
He's like, these fans will turn on you like that.
yeah.
And he's like, I think that's what's happening to Loma. He's like, you can't act like he didn't do all the stuff that he did. Now that he's got a loss, he lost to Teofimo Lopez. He's a great fighter. And people are acting like Loma's trash now. And they need to either reevaluate what you think about Loma or go start commenting on like basketball channels or something. Stay out of the because I see these people on YouTube and I got to start screaming at them.
Yeah. Well, I think
you can't disrespect a fighter like that, man. Like the dude, like people were saying that he was scared. It's like, bro, he was in the ring.
Yeah.
No one's scared once you get in there.
Yeah.
Cut that out, man. You're disrespecting that guy.
I mean, there is the theory that like once you reach a certain point, which I don't think, he doesn't seem like the type of person that would be that way, but like, you get to a certain point in your career and you end up being a little bit more hesitant and it's like, oh, like not so much like in the ring. Cause once you get in the ring, I think most people, except for like, I've heard, in regards to UFC, like, Cowboy Cerrone, he's been a couple times in the last couple fights where he gets in and he's just like, I wasn't there.
Yeah.
But I don't think that happens a lot in terms of like these guys. Cause I don't think you become that. He's never been a champion. So that's a different story. And Lomachenko's like a top tier fighter that I don't see that happening to. But like, in fighting, it's, I found it to be some of the worst fans because it's so, like you can watch any fight and be an expert because like it's fighting, and like and they'll say that because it's such like a, and you go to a bar and anybody can talk about fighting really, but when fighting and you watch fighting, it's like, yeah, it's a different story and like you understand the games that they're playing. It's like they're the same people who say that Floyd is a terrible boxer, and it's like, yeah, like that's just stupid because he doesn't knock people out or like because he's a defensive fighter. Like it's the same people, they're all the same. And like when you started,
And those are also the people that obviously ignored the first half of Floyd's career where he was knocking people
yeah,
out.
mhm,
That he was smart enough to become a defensive fighter. People could
yeah,
completely ignore that.
yeah. And like I said, it's just you're watching from the outside, and like it's not. It's easy to say that those fighters are scared or they're holding it back, but there's you have to play a certain game plan against somebody that is you know like you said at the beginning, with this dude's knockout power. If Lomachenko is to just go in and fucking try to haymaker him and just try to like play his strength, like he'd get knocked out probably and he'd be dropped.
Right.
And, like that's not how you fight. And like people don't understand that. They just think it's just, oh, it's a fight. I want to be entertained. Like I want to see
Yeah.
somebody get knocked out. It's the same
I'm
thing.
on my couch being lazy, drinking beer. I want to see two other guys hurt each other
Yeah.
because I'll never
Exactly.
do it. Like, and
I don't want to
like
talk about it.
that's the disrespect that like I have a really hard time dealing with. So like when I see these dudes on like social media commenting, like I get, you know, I'll be honest, I get a little immature.
Yeah.
I start wanting to fight people. Like, dude, like obviously you've never fought before. You're just like this isn't football or basketball. Like these guys aren't out here playing. Like they're like 3 people died in the ring in 2019.
Yeah.
This is real, man.
Yeah.
Like these dudes are putting their life on line for you. So you sit here and talk like, oh, this dude is trash. I mean,
Yeah.
what do you know?
Yeah.
What do you know?
No,
So,
exactly.
yeah, like that stuff's got to stop, man. They got to start put some respect on his name.
Really, honestly. And like, like I said, there's just like that casual level fighter who just watches for that stuff, like the knockouts and watches for the highlights and things like that. But understanding like who they are and understanding Lomachenko's pedigree and like his background is like, it happens, especially with and there's not and the other thing is that like these types of fights, they don't understand that like, you know, Lomachenko just didn't go up against like just anybody,
Right.
Like it's awesome to see someone like Floyd who's 50-0 or like a Khabib that's 28-0, but then at the same time they're like, "Oh, they lost, they're trash." Like they're not undefeated. And it's like, no, like that's like I give respect to the guys who've gone up, because you could say Floyd ran for the rest of his career. Like he didn't fight people in their prime. He didn't fight people that were like stylistically gonna beat him, like they were supposed to, but like he fought people that were like, just outside their prime or just outside the skill range needed to beat him. And like, he's 50-0, yeah, but like, how many of those fights did he actually like challenge himself in? Like he fought Connor, realistically, who actually thought he was gonna like win. He fought who was his second to last fight? I forgot the guy's name.
Andre Berto.
Andre Berto, yeah, like realistically, it's no shot of winning. Pacquiao was out of his prime, and like,
I mean, and look at those guys are all like Floyd's for the second half of his career. He fought almost exclusively other like former champions or
yeah.
champions.
Well, I'm just saying, it's like you get to a point where like you look at it like, and you see the 50-0, and they're like, oh, Lomachenko's garbage. He lost twice, but then like you
Yeah.
see who he's going up against. Like this is an
No, but listen, people that don't know anything about boxing, these same people that we're talking about right now are the same people that call Muhammad Ali the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
And he's got 6 losses.
Yeah.
Right? People still think Pacquiao's better than Mayweather, and he's got, I think, 6 losses.
And one of the most iconic knockouts of all time to himself when he got
right. Yeah, and he got put to sleep bad. Yeah. Right? So, yeah, the fact this guy's got 2 losses is like, come on, bro. I mean, he's got 3 losses his entire career.
Yeah.
Going back to when he was a kid. You know
yeah.
what I mean? So let's not. I think that seeing the O on the record, like in the loss column, is way overrated, especially in boxing. Like it's fighting.
Yeah.
It's like we see how like momentum changes in team sports from like week to week, right?
Yeah.
The same thing happens in boxing. Like momentum does swing, like throughout a course of a fight. Like it could happen in a millisecond.
And that's the thing is like you also have to account for, like literally you have to account for the puncher's chance. And like that's not anything more than just like you could just bend over at the wrong time in the wrong place.
If these guys are punching each other in the face, you can't just like look at it like there comes a point when whatever's on the paper, whatever statistics are shown, don't really matter.
Yeah.
Like there comes that point where it is just it's these 2 guys in the ring and everyone's around there watching, their coaches are in the corner, but during that round, you hear that they may hear their corner telling them, like giving them, yelling out instructions, but it's all blinders, man. It's just two guys in there.
Yep.
Right? I mean, so for people on the outside to talk down to these guys, I think is ridiculous. Right? I mean, and people need to reevaluate themselves when they're looking at dudes that are, one, the dedication it takes to get ready for a fight.
Yep.
Is enough to show that someone's, got heart.
Yep.
But then to get in there in front of millions of people and put it all on the line and risk a loss when you're known as the best. You know what I mean? Like, we should be giving Lomachenko credit for fighting Teal.
That's what I mean.
Like, young animal, dude. Right? Like, we should be giving him credit for that instead of saying, "Oh, see, he's trash."
And that's what I mean. Is like you know, like these people who put themselves up against like the best, and like they don't care where it is, they don't care the weight class, they don't care the time, the day, like all the, like there's people.
Which is another thing. Loma, he's a natural 126er.
Yeah.
Nobody, Teal probably walks around at like 155, I bet.
Well, that's the thing. And I thought I was with a bunch of people when I was watching the fight, and they were like, "Oh, what weight class is this?" Because they don't really watch boxing. I was like, "Oh, it's probably like 125 or 135." I mean, I was like, "I think it's 135," and I was like, "It was 135 or was 145?"
It was 135.
It was 135, and then they were talking about Lopez, and they were like, "Yeah, he's a natural like heavy dude," and I was like, "Damn, like Lomachenko's kind of small too, and like he's not even like big in size compared to him." So it's like these dudes are just challenging themselves. Like that's not an easy fight, and that was he was going to be a champion regardless. Lopez.
Yeah, it was going to happen. He's too good. Mm-hmm. He's too good. If it wasn't Loma, it would have been somebody else.
Yeah, right? And, Loma's still a good fighter. He's still, maybe he's not number one ranked anymore, but like, he's still.
I just saw ESPN's pound for pound rankings this morning. He's number 5.
Yeah, who's number 1? Him, Lopez?
No, Bud Crawford.
Oh, okay.
And then Canelo, and then Inoue, then Tio, then Loma.
Yeah, boxing's messing up right now. They need to whatever is going on with Canelo. I've heard a lot of bad stuff about Canelo and like his contract with that company, Dazen.
It that sucks. But I mean, to be completely honest, right now, there's no one for Canelo to fight. That's like, I tell you, they got dude from my hometown. His name is on the list. Willie Monroe.
Mm-hmm.
Willie Monroe is a really great, real slick boxer. He lost to Triple G a couple years ago. His name is on the list to fight Canelo in the coming year. But it's like, it's Canelo, bro. Like, that's
he's good.
It's as good as Willie is as a boxer, but it's not. That ain't his fight.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
I would love to see a guy from Rochester beat Canelo and be the middleweight champion of the world, but it ain't in the cards, man. So like, for that, all that stuff that's going on with Canelo, it's like he's got nobody to fight right now anyway. You know what I mean? No one interesting anyway.
What's looking like it's next? Because for Lopez, like would be next in line, and then like Lopez or for Lomachenko, obviously I wouldn't say his career took a turn, but like it's obviously got to get back to that spot, so he's got to kind of regroup and get back, and then Lopez has got to find that that next belt. I guess who's next in line? Like who's
so Lopez was on Scott Van Pelt talking about he wants to unify at 140. So he was talking about possibly fighting the winner of Ramirez and Taylor. But what I think is the logical next step is fighting the winner of Tank Davis and Leo Santa Cruz.
Yeah, that's gonna be a good fight too.
If you get a Tank and Tio fight, that's some fireworks. That'll be a really. I think that's good, and then he can go up if he wants to. As far as Loma goes, I think Loma will come back, have like a tune-up fight, and then he'll fight for a belt again. I think that's what'll happen. So if say Tio goes his next fight, fights Tank, wins, moves up, some of those belts are vacant. Some of them anyway, right? And then I think Loma will be in line to fight Tank or one of these other guys for one of those belts. I think he'll be fighting for the championship with in his next couple fights.
Cool. Yeah, I agree. I think the world's better when Lomachenko's the champion, so hopefully they can get him. He can get there, and then this, then Lopez can really start to like take off and be something, because boxing fucking needs it. Like they need something. They need something.
Another thing I said in my preview was that I talked about how I saw similarities in the Lopez Lomachenko fight to the Canelo Mayweather fight.
Yeah.
That I thought Canelo, like his talent was apparent, but he wasn't ready for Mayweather.
Yeah.
And the best thing that probably happened to him was losing to Mayweather because he's gone on to adapt so amazingly in every single fight.
Yeah.
That he's moved all the way up to light heavy and just destroyed Sergey Kovalev. And I talked about Tio having that same sort of potential that even if he did lose to Loma, that he would go on to take from this fight. Something better happened. He won and still was able to take all that knowledge. I think Tio can be a champion all the way up. Probably, I mean, if he's carrying around the weight like he says he is, welterweight, junior middle, I think he'll be a champion up a few more divisions at least. So
Yeah.
I think he'll be around for a long time, holding belts for a long time, fighting tough dudes for a long time.
I will see. Like I said, hopefully boxing can pick it up because I love boxing and they've been slacking lately.
Well, look, the next couple months we got some really great fights.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this weekend is Devin Haney and Gamboa, or maybe it's next weekend. Then Halloween is Tank and Leo Santa Cruz, and then Shakur Stevenson I think is fighting in November. Usyk is fighting in December. Anthony Joshua's fighting in December. So the next couple months, the end of this year, we got some really great fights coming up.
Yeah, I'm excited. Speaking of great fights, we'll move into Khabib Gaethje this weekend. Do you watch UFC at all?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
When there's a guy that knows how to throw punches.
Yeah. This fight's gonna be good. I'm, there. So essentially, to give you a rundown, this fight is going to be a game of Khabib's grappling and Justin's ability to not get taken down and hopefully catch Khabib. So basically, the same concept of Khabib McGregor. Did you watch that fight?
Who?
Khabib and Connor.
Oh yeah. I watched it. Yeah.
So like that's the main idea here, and that's what's going to happen. So like, Khabib is a ground specialist. Connor was a striking specialist who was working on defense. Justin Gaethje is actually a wrestler. Was a wrestler. He was an All-American, I think. And he's got really good takedown defense. So that's where this, they're talking about this fight going. In terms of like, what's coming up, what I think is gonna happen. Khabib did it against Connor. Gaethje's a little bit different of a fighter. He fucked up Tony Ferguson like bad. Like it wasn't like that was probably the worst that Tony Ferguson's ever been messed up in a fight. So like, looking forward at this, I think it's gonna be. I hope it's a really good fight because Khabib is. I like Khabib to a certain extent. I think that he is very good. He's best or one of the best grapplers at least in the world.
Yeah.
And he can throw a punch. I know you wanted to say some stuff on that, but like he can hit some people. But Gaethje's just kind of this like brawler who can wrestle and defend. So it's going to be essentially like a takedown battle. And if Khabib can get him, Khabib said early that he was going to take him to basically like a Floyd Mayweather quote. He was going to take him to the deepest parts of the ocean and drown him.
Yeah.
And then Gaethje said he's coming in like a bus and just inflicting damage. He's just looking to create chaos and just like he's gonna put him down. Connor said the same thing. Connor's ground game isn't as Connor's a brown belt, so he's definitely got game there. But his takedown defense and I think his engine's a little bit less than Gaethje's because Gaethje's a little bit more of a.
And he doesn't have a $120 million like
exactly.
McGregor does. When you have that amount of money, yeah, it changes things a little bit.
Yeah, I really want to see Connor and Khabib fight again because I really think Connor can beat Khabib. So I'm hoping Khabib wins here. But I think Khabib will win, and I think he's gonna do it same type of way he did it against Connor. He's because he had him. And Khabib does this thing, and I've been trying to do it myself in jiu-jitsu, but like he does this leg lock thing and he just gets your legs under you and he puts your feet on top of each other and he just squeezes knees together and you just can't move. And if he gets you there, you're fucked. So like essentially like, and Gaethje's a wrestler, but when you go to that, like he is an elite level of grappling that like you don't see very often, except for guys like, like the legends of the game. So like he is up there, and like Gaethje's going to be one of those guys who, he's done really well his last couple fights. Like he beat Cowboy Cerrone, he beat Tony Ferguson, and he wasn't even supposed to fight Ferguson because it was supposed to be Khabib Ferguson. So he stepped up and won, and then he's got definitely a puncher's chance. And if he can sit there, and I doubt Khabib's gonna hang with him like that way. He shouldn't, because that's the same thing they said about Connor. Is that, but the way the Connor fight went was Khabib was controlling the first 2 rounds. Didn't really do much damage. He was just kind of like getting Connor on the ground, and Connor did a lot very well with defending the grappling. And then the third round, I don't know what Khabib was doing, but he somehow stood in the face of Connor and dropped him. Like, he hit him with
The
that.
worst punch I've ever seen.
And that was like more of a. I don't like Khabib's punches. I don't think he throws.
I've seen dudes out at bars that are like so drunk they can't even talk throw better punches than that.
Yeah,
Like that was whack.
Yeah,
I don't know who his striking coach is, but he should be fired. No, he threw like an overhand, but like it looped around,
Yeah,
and he landed it like sideways with like his last 2 knuckles.
Well, when he throws a punch, he has this tendency to like go like this when he throws his punches, and he like lunges.
Everybody in the MMA, they all think no one throws like polished, efficient punches.
Yeah.
And again, I get it because you have a lot more to worry about. So the way that you block and the way that you move is different than in boxing.
Yeah.
So that the turning, on your hips and swiveling those shoulders in every punch isn't what they do, because they got to worry about defending other things. But my God, man, it is hard to watch when these guys throw punches, man. It is hard to watch.
Yeah, and like I don't know if you watched Adesanya versus Costa. Did you watch that fight?
I didn't get to see that one. I wanted
that
to.
one. Adesanya's got some fucking skill, and he's a stand-up artist. He's like a kickboxer, Muay Thai specialist. But even his punches are sometimes like they're good. Like he lands them, and I think it's because of who he's fighting against, obviously. But I think he only had 1 loss or 2 losses in his kickboxing career. He was like, he's a top level. But like when you see a guy like him, and like, Connor is a pretty sloppy puncher, but like he still throws probably some of the best punches, I guess, that you'd see.
Because his punches are accurate.
Yeah.
But the way they come out, it's lazy.
Yeah, and he tends to like Connor gets very like at the end. He reaches, he'll throw across, and like
it's the reason why he gasses out so much is because he's not. There comes a point when he's not snapping his punches anymore. He's throwing them. He's pushing them. Yeah. And that's what starts to eat up your energy. Yeah. Because then when you do miss, now all your body weight is here, and you got to bring it all back. So instead of being loose and snapping his punches, they look nice. They land where they're going, but I mean, you can see they're lazy, and too much of his body is going with the fist.
Yeah.
And he's one of the better punchers in UFC.
Yeah, you should, if you ever, you should watch Adesanya and like kind of watch his style. He's more of, like I said, he's not much of like a power puncher, but he's like one of those dudes who just like drop boom boom boom, like does these little like short jab and hooks and crosses that he's throwing, and just like he catches you. But like when he caught Costa, he like and this is what I kind of I've never been punched in the head, so like I don't know exactly, but like when he caught him, it was like this knuckle, and it just dragged across the head like this, and Costa just went down. And like it's one of those things where it's just like you see that and you're just like, how it's what's one, like you were saying about with Lomachenko when he got dropped. It's just like right time, right place. Because
getting hit on the temple will pretty much put anybody down.
Yeah, and like
that little soft spot right there, and it messes your equilibrium up. So they're really hard to recover from. So even if you don't hit a guy hard, but you hit him like up here, anywhere around the temple area or like above the ear, it doesn't take a lot, and it's really, really hard to recover from, man.
Yeah, and I mean that was a clinic. That one, that was probably one of the more dominated fights I've ever seen, because Costa was supposed to be like the stopper. He was supposed to be that one. But anyways, for Khabib and Gaethje, Khabib is a sloppy puncher. Gaethje's a sloppy puncher, but he's definitely connects. He's a lot more crisp than he looks. And like, if he connects and he starts to, play the game with Khabib, or Khabib, I doubt, like I said, I doubt Khabib's going to play that game. I doubt he's going to try to stand up with Gaethje and be there. But it's with this defense and like this takedown defense that he's going to try to put in, which is, if he can hold him back for that much, for that long until, because it looked like when Khabib fought Connor, the first 2 rounds he gassed himself. In the third round, he was trying to take a break, and that's why he stood up with Connor. Um, but I don't know because like Khabib didn't really get caught. So if I have a very like big hunch that this fight's not going to be that close. I think Khabib's going to like wreck him
Yeah.
because I don't think Gaethje's better than Connor. Um, so and you said you've watched some Gaethje, right? You haven't watched a lot of him.
No, I've seen some of his highlights. I've seen some of Khabib though.
Yeah. Khabib is just like I said, he's just that high level of a wrestler or a grappler. Like I don't see that outweighing, because that was my thing when he fought Connor was Connor's striking going to outweigh Khabib's grappling? And I thought it would because I'd seen
Yeah.
Connor, put other people who were supposed to be like Khabib, like to sleep. And then like you see Gaethje, was supposed to, supposedly be that next dude. And like, he's a good puncher. He's not a great puncher, but he's got a lot of the skills, but I just don't think that it's going to be close. I think it's going to be kind of like this Adesanya Costa fight, whereas like who it could go either way type thing. But I really think Khabib's just gonna like literally do what he said he was gonna do is like drown him, like just take him
Well,
out and just drown him.
yeah, I mean, look, because the only thing I can say in this, because I don't like when these dudes start wrestling and getting on the ground is like when I like lose focus and I don't want to watch the fight anymore because it's not like I get it. There's technique there, but like for me, it's like I become so uninterested that like I don't want to see anymore. But the fights I have seen with Khabib, it's like it seems like guys who say they're gonna beat him at the stand up game and not let him do those things. They stand up, but they don't attack. They don't move forward.
But you can't, and like that's the thing. It's like if you ever looked at,
But my point is that the other way has not worked for anyone.
yeah, I
They
know,
stand back there and do this, and then he shoots in, and it's done. So it's like I guess the only other way would to be get him going backwards,
yeah, no, I
right?
agree,
I
and
mean,
I think they should.
throw some punches, throw some kicks. Get him going backwards because the standing there and allowing Khabib to time his shoot in
Yeah,
has not worked for anyone.
and
So
that's
I
the
mean,
thing. It's like I think, like I said, I think that's how Connor can beat him. I think that's how Gaethje can beat him. I just don't know that Gaethje's that good. I think he's on a good run, but I don't think he's that good.
yeah,
I don't think he's good enough to minimize the damage on that end and then give it enough. Um, because I mean, like I said, Khabib's punching is borderline awful.
yeah.
Um, but at the same time,
I would say you can go ahead and say it is awful,
yeah,
all the way.
it's crazy. Yeah,
It is trash poopy,
yeah. You,
right?
you see some of the punches there, and there are a lot of bad punches in MMA.
Hey man, when you're that good at and that strong, you can keep grown men on the ground like that. I guess you don't really need to be good at punching. So, I mean, he does what he does.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, like overall, like I said, I think what's going to happen is Khabib's going to end up mauling him or like tapping him or doing something along those lines. I guess prediction wise, I'll say I think he'll get like a fourth round submission of some type, just like he kind of did on Connor. I really see it going the same way he did against Connor because I don't think he's better than Connor. I don't think Gaethje's better than Connor by any means. So, I see kind of the same thing, third or fourth round, like submission. And it might be a good fight. There might be like Gaethje will have his moments in the fight, but I don't think it's going to be anything to like look at long term and be like, oh yeah, that was a really good fight.
Yeah.
Because like there's just it's not. I just don't see it as a good matchup for him. People are talking about it and all the experts are like, oh, he's a good wrestler, he's gonna block him, but like, that stuff's hard to do for 4 fucking rounds when Khabib is as good as he is and like trying to
Yeah.
stop somebody and like it's essentially the same as like uh just constantly like getting I don't even know how to describe it in boxing. It's probably the same as just like constantly getting hit like for 5 rounds and you're just like constantly throwing a jab. You're like, does this guy get
Yeah.
tired? Does this guy get tired? And then you just like, it's that same thing, or it's just like, when you keep getting taken down, you keep having to like wrestle and push and push and push and move and push and shield and push, and you don't get anything done, and then you're exhausted and you haven't even like touched the guy yet. It's just one of those things where it's just. But again, Khabib's sloppy. Like he's definitely sloppy, and he could get caught. Like if someone came in and had like the boxing skills of you know one of these guys who could throw a punch, and then like an oddest like and they would never obviously fight because that's not even like close weight class. But if someone with the skills of Adesanya was in there, because this guy Adesanya is like he knows how to place a kick, he knows how to move and jab and like switch his stance up and throw punches, and like that's why I think Connor can win, and I think he can knock Khabib out, but he just didn't. I don't know what happened that night. I don't know if he was.
He looked like he didn't want to be there.
Yeah, and he said he was like hung over, and like I don't know if he actually
Is
was.
it
Like
going in there, man? I remember watching that fight. I'm like, man, this dude looks like he didn't even care about none of
he
this.
looks like he did. He like overslept. Like
He
his
said he
hair
was. It
wasn't
was like
fucked
yeah, it was
up.
looked like he was looking around, like trying to count how many people are in there. Like, oh, I'm getting a piece of this live gate. Like,
Yeah,
can't wait
and
to get out of here and party. So that's what it looked like to me. You know what I mean, it
exactly.
just
Like, and even when he got tapped, like when Connor got tapped, he was literally just sitting there like this with his hands on the ground, and Khabib
he
had it,
looked
but he
he
didn't
looked
even.
relieved. He was like, all right.
Yeah,
You
he's
know
like,
what I
all
mean?
right,
Like,
I
okay,
lost.
let
Yeah,
me get out of here now.
yeah. And like I really like I said, I really think he can win, but I don't see Gaethje winning by any means. I don't think there's a chance, and like it's one of those
I'll
fights
tell
where
you what, if any of these MMA guys would move their fucking head,
I know.
slip every now and then, maybe when Khabib throws one of those garbage punches, he can come back and counter him and put him to sleep, and he won't have to worry about all that getting mauled on the ground. But
Yeah.
these guys don't move their head. It's all this.
Yep. Yep.
You know what I mean? And it's just these guys need better boxing coaches. What happens?
They
I mean,
do.
I get it's mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
And these guys are like seem to be just completely ignoring the punching part of it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's mixed. You get a little bit more of the boxing in there, and these guys will be a little bit better. None
No,
of
I
them
really
move their
agree.
head, and none of them can throw a punch.
Yeah. No, I agree, and I think that like the boxing needs to be. I don't know how you bridge that gap because I think it's just like you said, it's all the mixed aspects of it that you have to learn. It's hard to like focus on one and get better at
Yeah,
it. I think it's showing now that like before it was like the grapplers were better, like the people who would grapple, and then now it's turning like with this like with Adesanya is like you can beat because he's fought multiple guys who are like grapplers and we're supposed to be like the guy to like, oh, what happens when I get him to the ground type thing.
yeah.
And I think that's been like three straight fights and he's destroyed them, and it's been just like a clinic with
They
him.
can't because they can't get near him.
Well, he's long, and then like
So he's keeping them at range with his
yeah,
punches and
like
kicks.
and like if you go back to like go and watch Adesanya versus Costa, like a YouTube highlight, and you'll see like I think you'll be impressed with how because like right away he used his kick as a jab, and like Teddy Atlas actually has a video where he breaks down the whole fight.
Yeah, actually, that's on my it's on my list. I want to watch that.
Yeah, so like he breaks down Adesanya and he talks about his feints and like the way he moves, like changes levels, the way he like uses his kick to keep him at distance, and like then he just kind of he saw, and there was a point in the fight when like Adesanya was talking, because he went over it a lot and he was kind of just like talking about what he saw, and there was a point in the fight when he used the feint to like because that's what you do in boxing. You use the feint and then you see how they react, and then you change levels and you go up, and like he used a feint and you saw it in his eyes, and he was like this kind of like he knew it, and then he like like he had some just beautiful moves where he had this kick, this punch kick that he threw, this combo where he threw the left hand, and then as soon as the left hand finished, it was a decoy. As soon as the left hand finished, his foot was following it, and he kicked him right
Oh,
in the side
nice.
of the head. And then like, he just started like chipping away at his front leg, and he was just boom, boom, boom. His knee was red within like, his knee looked like a tomato within like the first round. And then like, so that way when you take those skills from boxing and you translate into there, it's clearly working. And like people talk about, I think grappling's important, but I think that if you can learn how to like keep someone at bay with your legs and your hands, you know, it's not really a problem at that point because
Yeah.
you just have it when you get taken down. But like if you're good enough where you can keep them at bay and you can block it a little bit, which I don't like, and that's the thing is where I see with Gaethje, like you need to have like a attributes in that sense. Like you need to be long, you need to be lanky, you need to be someone who can like keep Khabib away. And again, Go back to Connor. Like he has those little attributes. He has like long arms. He knows how to kick and he knows how to keep distance. But he just, like you said, I think he just didn't want to be there that night. And like he has all the attributes to beat Khabib, but I don't think Gaethje does. So like you
Yeah.
look at that fight, you keep going back to it, and it's like yeah, I don't see a way in which Gaethje wins unless he like somehow catches because Khabib is really that ugly when he throws punches and goes to box that like it's almost like all right like is that really like how he looks, and like if that is, then like that's not going to be good if he goes against somebody who can actually like throw a punch.
Right. That should be the game plan. Like
Yeah,
if you are standing up and he does throw a punch, let's be ready to counter because it's there.
yeah,
I
and I
mean,
think
like if I was in someone's camp in UFC, we're just going over the boxing part. That's all I would work on.
yeah,
When this dude throws this ugly looping punch, we're gonna roll under, catch him with a hook, put him to sleep, right? Because we don't want to go on the ground with Khabib, right? We don't want to be there, right? So what do? When we are up and he does throw those ugly ass punches? We're gonna handle
yeah,
it. That's what I would do. I mean, seems
yeah, and like
simple. To me, it's efficiency.
yeah,
That's what fighting is about: being efficient with your movements. And he's very inefficient. Khabib is very inefficient with his punches. A
yeah,
lot of energy and wasted movement goes into his punches. There is a huge gap there where he can be countered. Like there's a lot of time in from the time that the punch is at his shoulder to the time it lands. There's a lot of time in there to counter.
yeah,
So I mean, like that's how I would approach it if I was going against him, man. Like let's get in there during that time and counter, man. Be efficient.
yeah, yeah. And like I said, I think it's going to be that way, and and I think that the problem is that like when you fight a guy like Khabib, you really have to worry about the ground game that much.
Yeah,
And like sometimes I think it's overdone a little bit with those guys because they have to worry about it so much that like you almost have to be that ready for it that it takes away from the other stuff. It's
yeah.
not
Yeah.
it's not a
I
game.
mean, yeah, because you can only train so many hours.
Yeah, and like if it's one of those things where it's like it's the same thing like you said. If someone's good at something, you got to worry about it. Like with Khabib, it's like because if he gets you on the ground, like it's almost over. Like
Yeah.
for the most
I
part.
mean, what are you gonna do? I
So
mean,
like you just have to work on that defense and then work on the boxing. But I think it's so much in the other direction because guys get so worried about it because it is in that like I just said, it is like if he gets you down, like good luck. So you have
yeah.
to not get taken down. And
Right.
that's kind of the overall of it. Um, next couple fights you're looking forward to? I know we talked about was it Gamboa you said or Crawford?
But yeah, I mean, Devin Haney and Gamboa are fighting, but I mean, that's one of these ones where like after you saw what Gamboa physically is just not there anymore. He used to be a really exciting fighter. He's not there anymore. Devin Haney's probably just gonna pick him apart. Devin Haney's a really, really great boxer.
Yeah.
So I mean, I kind of like I can like that's Devin Haney 12-round decision easy in my opinion. Um, then you got Bud Crawford just signed a fight to fight Kell Brook, and it's like that's
Kill.
another one. It's like Kell Brook is like physically like gifted, and
Yeah.
but it's like we're talking about Bud Crawford. I mean, the dude he's gonna tear him apart. Like
Mhm.
so, it's like yeah, I'm gonna watch it because it's Crawford, but I mean he's gonna whoop on me. Halloween though, Tank Davis and Leo Santa Cruz. I'm very interested in that because Santa Cruz is one of these dudes that, in true traditional Mexican style, throws a million punches and comes forward and doesn't back away from no one. And it'll be interesting to see how Tank counters that.
Yeah.
With all of his speed and power and everything he's got, I think that's going to be a good fight. And
Yeah.
then obviously, like anytime Alexander Usyk fights, I'm there because this dude, for being as big as he is, like he reminds me a little bit of Tyson Fury, just not as big.
Yeah.
But a guy that big that is that light on his feet and has that looseness and smoothness to his fighting style, I'm there for it. He's fighting December, I think. So the Tank Davis, Leo Santa Cruz, and the Usyk fight in December are the two that I'm looking most forward to.
Cool. Cool. Khabib, Gaethje, Connor, and Dustin in January, and then they took
Yeah,
away the
but that's
last.
not even a real fight, though, right? Like,
No, it is. It's on the UFC now.
oh, is it?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I think the whole thing was for Connor to just get their attention and show that like if he wanted to, he could do the fight without them. But
oh, okay.
it ended up being under UFC.
Oh, all right, yeah, I mean, yeah, I'd check that out too.
No
Yeah.
doubt. They were supposed to have. I think it was. I think it was. Who was it? Oh, Kamara Usman. I think was supposed to fight in December, but they got rid of that because I don't know why. I guess he needed more time before the fight, so there's not really another headliner for UFC. But the fight at before Khabib and Gaethje is going to be a good one because Cannonier and Whitaker. Whitaker's a former champion, and Cannonier is kind of like the next up and coming guy for
Yeah.
for the light heavyweight division or the was it welterweight? 185 welterweight? I don't remember the. I think it's. I don't know what the weight
What
class
is
is.
in
I forgot the name
UFC?
of it, but I think it's. Oh, let me see. It's right here. It's middleweight. Yeah, middleweight. And Cannonier is going to fight Adesanya, and he's got like kind of those attributes. He's a long, lanky dude who's got like good punches and whatnot. So that's going to be a good fight. Khabib Gaethje and then Dustin and Connor. I'm excited for Dustin and Connor.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, that'd be
yeah.
cool.
Any last minute things you want to say about anything related
Yeah,
to?
man, I just everybody needs to start respecting fighters a little bit more.
It's true.
I mean, like people, especially American culture, is like, especially with the social media, like everyone's got a voice now, and that's cool sometimes. But I mean, when you start telling, like, talking about fighters and just completely disrespecting what they do, they're like that. I mean, that makes me angry. So people need to stop doing that.
It's true.
And
I,
don't these reports of Lomachenko's demise are greatly exaggerated because this dude is not. He's good, man. He's still a great fighter, and he's gonna be around. He'll be back. So people should
yeah,
stop hating on like that and look out for him.
I think most people should do some type of martial art or boxing to before they can have an opinion on.
Or at least live a little.
Yeah.
Go out fight in traffic. You know what I mean? Get into a bar fight. You know what I mean? Live a little bit. You get punched in the face.
Yeah, I need to
You
do
know,
that.
at least you get punched in the face. Then then you can go and watch a fight and have a little bit of a uh, an opinion that's more founded in reality and some truth. You know what I mean?
Instead of like
You
just hit
took
him
a
with the
punch. Yeah,
just hit him.
go get punched in the face. Then go watch a fight and have an opinion on it.
Exactly. Exactly.
And yeah, and that's the last thing I want to say for real. All the judges in boxing, if they're not former fighters, they should make it a rule now. They got to get jumped in, like when you join the Bloods. All like all these other like former fighters and like the
one
other judges that are fighters too get whoop their ass for like 3 minutes and then they can
one
be a judge.
one stomach uh one right hook from Mike Tyson.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah.
not
That's what they should go there and just like have to take a free punch, something.
yeah.
They should get hit
Yeah.
before they do this.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna put this on my channel. So we got the BG Perform, and then Jake's gonna put this on his YouTube channel. It's his Immortal Boxing. I'll put the link below. Are you gonna put it anywhere else or just YouTube?
I'll probably put a little clip of it on Instagram.
All right, cool.
I mean, but it'll just lead people back to the YouTube, but it'll be there.
All right, cool. And I'll put the Instagram and everything down there. Thanks for joining me. Try to do this more often. We're gonna try to go over some fights, some cool stuff.
Yeah, there's a ton of fights. Yeah, let's do them more.
Yeah, and we're gonna hopefully next week we'll go do a little recap of Khabib Gaethje and see if I was right, and then we'll go
Yeah,
from there.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you guys for tuning in. If you did, if not, catch you next time. Hope you have a good weekend. Peace.